Greetings, everyone. Welcome back. I thought I would stop by today and do a video. A little bit about, turn my volume off on my phone. I think I did. Yes, I did. Okay. I have experienced being mother for 24 years, intending and planning the birth of my child, cleaning my womb, 1993, 94, giving birth in 95. When I say cleaning my womb, that's a whole nother video. It's not really being done today. It's not being shared, practiced, taught. You know, we have certain things that we do for the womb, but this is something that's very, very important. Although I am a business, naturally with Karen, that supports herself in a world that requires money, I like to put videos and talk about things that are my passion. I am a shaman and a medicine woman in the truest sense of the word. Have been, developed into one more and more so with training and learning and teaching and research and hands-on with people for a very long time, over 36 years in my adult life. Nothing can prepare you, and I mean nothing, for the love that you have. In my case, I also came through infertility, being told by a fertility specialist, gynecologist type specialist, that it probably was not going to happen. I wasn't going to get pregnant because I had endometriosis. And at that time, in my very early 30s, I'm now 59, I did not have half of the medicine that I have today. I will have even more from these experiences that I have gone through. I would like for you to pause the video if you're not watching it live. Get yourself something to drink, a ginger ale, a nice cup of water, some tea, a mushroom drink, meaning chaga, lion's mane, cordyceps, agarikon, whatever it is. Sit down and really listen. I chose to become a mother. It's something I wanted to do my entire life as a girl. As a girl in 1965, being born in 1961 in San Francisco, my grandmother, maternal grandmother, Etna, began with me in 1965 about what auras were. Omens, she called them. Spirit animals. She was very much into parapsychology. She was friends with Dr. Ian Stevenson, University of Virginia, NDEs, near-death experiences. And her love and fascination for parapsychology is something that she shared with me, knowing that young children are fresh over the Rainbow Bridge, fresh from the spirit world, and that they have the ability to sense, because little babies, when they're newly born, are entirely a sensory organ. So things, experiences that don't really affect us as adults in an adult body, we've become desensitized to them, are very loud and very strong to a little baby. And it's for this reason that we typically would put a cap on the baby, even in warmer weather, to protect the fontanelle, the little open spot where the cranium wasn't finished developing. And this is little Pablo, my grand dog behind me. So my child was conceived in 94, and he was born August 22nd, 1995. He would be 25 years old this year in 2020. But he died, I'm going to speak in mainstream language here for a little bit. He died October the 29th, 2019. He died on the 29th, which 9 plus 2 is 11. Numerology says you would look at the entire number. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you just look at the date, just like sometimes you might look at just the numbers on your house. Now, I've gone through a long life that I'm thankful for, and I've been, explaining a lot of what I've learned and how I move, meaning how I move day to day, sensing and trying my best to maintain being a sensory human, a human with open and experiencing sensing. But we are living in a world where things are just factual. Give me the bottom line. It's just about the money. It's just about the numbers, Karen. It's just about this, and it's just don't go out there. Don't get all foo-foo and woo-woo on me, and don't do these things, right? So because of my legal historical background, almost 20 years with the DA in Merced County and the judges' chambers in Santa Cruz County, I stayed at one law firm for 10 years post-internship as a family law paralegal specialist, senior family law paralegal specialist. And I worked at another wonderful, glamorous firm in Santa Cruz called Abassa, Williams, Sachs, Attic, and Gallagher. I learned an awful lot about language, organization, professionalism, and I like to balance between the two, okay? Most of the time, I like to be in an environment that feels like it's not quite so stressed. It's not quite so pretentious. It feels like it's really down to earth, just to use kind of another cliche. So long before my child died, if I back up for just a few moments so I can explain and share with you about other ways that we sense, which are not quite so common. My child's father is from Jamaica, and we planned to have a child together. And I laid out a plan that I thought was going to be just absolutely superb in terms of our child being able to be raised at home, not in stranger care, not in daycare, not going to a public school. None of those were about elitism, but they were more about maintaining harmony, home and hearth. Home and hearth, meaning if you're home with parents and grandparents, you're going to feel the love a lot more. We're going to know that nothing's happened to you during a time that you're basically defenseless, that you're maturing and growing in your body and your brain. And so I laid out this plan while I made the money as the primary breadwinner in the relationship, in a relationship that was several years long. And sometimes things, as I know, working in family law, don't always turn out. So we went our separate ways right after the child was born. Something that really devastated me, not because of the relationship, but because I knew of the impact upon the minor child. And it was probably within about 7, 8, 9 years, and I don't remember exactly, but I was driving in the Ford Expedition with our child and headed to Duluth from Cloquet. And I heard, as I hear quite often, as my grandmother started me out, of course you can hear. Of course you can hear. You can hear from the field. It's always available to you. So out of the blue, out of the random, I hear, after taking a trip to Jamaica in 1994, before our son was officially conceived and born, meeting his grandparents in Jamaica on the other side, I hear, Daddy's going to die of a heart problem in about a month. I don't hear these things every day, all the time, every month, even every year. I mean, come on now. This is not something you hear all the time. But I pulled over to a safe space, picked up my cell phone where I was parked and off the road, and I called my child's father, and I said, I really love your father a lot. He's really amazing, and I miss him. And I'm so glad I had a chance to meet him, but I just heard this, and I hope that what I've heard is wrong. Not what I know, but what I heard. I hope that what I heard is wrong. I said, why don't you be sure to check on Daddy, as he was affectionately called, make sure he's okay, and also maybe even go get his heart checked out. Along my road, having opened a massage and wellness business licensed by the city of Cloquet for 17 years, client after client after client came in 17 years, as you can imagine, being open 7 days a week by appointment. It's not an 8-hour a day, 5-day a week job. It's one of those jobs where maybe a day or two that week, or 3 days or 4 days that week, you don't have any clients, and maybe some days you've got 4 or 5 clients. And I typically kept it at, not more than 2 or 3 clients a day, because I didn't want to be a bargain basement type service. So when clients would come in, I gave hundreds of people medically intuitive insights, most of the time, not by delivering a diagnosis code and playing doctor, but by saying there's some congestion in the liver, there's something going on here, I can feel cyst, I can feel an enlarged thyroid, by palpating the thyroid, not intending to check, treat, or diagnose anyone, but just doing a massage and knowing after feeling hundreds and hundreds of thyroids and seeing the swelling in the neck that it was patently obvious for me. I also published a book on thyroid in November of 2017. I had been teaching thyroid workshops where people were asking me, could you check mine really quick? Just feel it. And so I would take my finger and say, why don't you go have your doctor check it out? It does feel a little swollen to me. And they go, yeah, it felt swollen to me too. So I have a background in that sort of thing. But as I began to lay hands on people with doing massage, right? And doing this most intimate work with real people, what I call in the trenches sometimes. I wasn't in California anymore. I wasn't in Santa Cruz. Now I was in the Midwest USA, the goiter belt of the world, or the goiter belt of the continental United States, probably moreover, because there's definitely a goiter belt in the continent of Africa as well. So time after time, medical intuition, lots and lots of hearing. One of our pastor's wives in town, one of the larger churches, her mother came in, and I told her what the mother said and what the mother showed me. She started absolutely crying at the counter and said, there's no way you could have known that. So, as you might have heard me say before, and maybe you haven't, so I'm just going to go ahead and repeat it. Am I really having the dead step forward all the time when you get some of these insights, when someone's on the massage table and you're doing the massage and you intuit something? Or is memory, as it's been reported, out here floating around in fractals and in this energy soup extending from the body, and that we're all able to access it, but for the fact that we really haven't been taught how to do it? More and more of us are waking up, meaning that you can see when you look at the eyes, is this being, a human being or animal being, really fully cognizant in their own body, their own vessel? Or are they just kind of rote, meaning R-O-T-E, just kind of going through life, just doing what they're supposed to do? You got to go to the market, you got to buy food, you got to take a crap, you got to go to work, you got to fill out unemployment papers, you got to do this, you got to do that. I mean, everyone's got this to-do list to keep us busy, 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 but nothing, or very, very, very few comparatively, have something on the to-do list which really and truly has to do with our becoming absolutely sustainable. Part of our becoming absolutely sustainable is returning to the full range of our senses. So my child died 8 going on 9 months ago. I cry. My eyes are swollen. I'm very, very, very stressed for sundry reasons, which I won't go over entirely right now on this video. But I'm here for a couple of very good reasons. Number one is that there's never going to be a perfect time to deliver. I can look at myself in the mirror or on the screen and just critique the heck out of myself. Oh, you look tired, you look stressed, you look like you've been crying. You just got way too much going on. Your voice doesn't even sound like you. I mean, look at your videos a little over 2 years ago. Yep, went through some really heavy stress. And chances are you may also have gone through or will go through a great deal of stress based on what we're undergoing right now with the virus. So the virus is impacting how we vote, how we shop, how we eat, how we doctor, how we treat, what we're entitled to and what we're not, how we drop the animals off curbside to be checked, right? It impacts quite a lot. It's impacting house sales and whether or not people are going to be laid off and continue to be able to be qualified for their financing. So this whole COVID debacle is a big problem. I lost my child. I lost the ability to experience his hand to hold on to and mine to hold on to his. I lost watching and observing him live a life at the young, tender age of 24, almost 25 next month. I lost the single biggest joy of my life that I had anticipated coming forward, which was becoming a grandmother. So I had signs. I hear often. Hearing is a big one for me. I hear a lot. So a lot of times clients would come in on the table to get a massage and I would hear something about them. And I would say, are you open-minded for me to share what it is that I've heard? And just about everyone would say, yes, absolutely. And they knew that I wasn't sugarcoating it. I wasn't asking for any money. They were already just going to pay for the bodywork session or just pay for the wellness session or whatever it was they came for. No one was ever being charged for it unless it was in the time that we'd spent together, and there was no guarantees. It was just an extra frosting on the cake, if you will. As you might imagine, at 59 years old, I've received a lot of scoff and ridicule and flack, and I don't tolerate it anymore. I'm very competent and confident in this day and age of what I do and how I sense. So let's go into the month of September of 2019 and let's start talking about the signs, because it's not about me blathering on. It's about me building the basis for you to understand the story. In September of 2019, as I would drive by funeral homes, and just like maybe anywhere that you live, you drive by and you think, oh, and I kind of would turn my head because something was causing me, the signs, something was causing me to notice. And I thought, no. Because starting August 1st and all of September and all of October, my son had gone through a detox. He was living in a sober home on 2nd Street in Duluth called the Howard Freese Sober Home. I had spent the night with my son in the car the last day in July of last year, and we spent the night at Park Point near the beach in my little Subaru. And he said, I'm going to go to detox tomorrow. And I said, and I'm going to be the happiest mom in the world. And I've got a massage client on my table at 10 o'clock in the morning, but I'm spending the night with you in the car. And we'd gone through about 1.5 years where I did not sleep, but with an eye open. And I mean, one or both eyes open, keeping me awake as much as possible because of using Narcan not less than about 25 times to keep him from dying when he would black out and pass out on the floor. And I was so tired, I was afraid at this point with being so sleep deprived. That's why the difference in my look, my pictures, my throat, my voice, you can't go that long without sleeping and then get the final thrust, which is your child dying. When you just start to pull up and you just start to pull up and bam, and you come up and bam, bam, back down. So he was in the Howard Freese sober home. We had spent the night in the car. I dropped him off at the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment on Superior Street at about 7:30 that morning. They agreed that they were going to get him in. I said goodbye. I said I would be back that same day after my client. I had some cash in my hand and be bringing him some food because the food is really sub-zero there. It's terrible, not nutritionally dense, and he's used to eating well. And so I came back, brought the food. I couldn't visit with him because there was only certain visitation days. And I said, nope, that's fine. He's in here. I can take a big exhale and I can take a deep breath. When he got his phone back and he went to the sober home, I texted him on a regular basis. I am the happiest mother on earth right now. My son's alive. He's sober. Everything is going well. I mean, we are going to build a phenomenal life together. One day I'm going to get to be a grandma and I just can't wait. And I'm just really, really thankful right now. So August went by and I would be at the sober home pretty much every day, driving half an hour up there and staying as long as I was able to stay and driving home. And oftentimes bringing little Pablo over here, the Chihuahua, who's my grand dog. September, October came, and October the 28th, on Monday night, I had seen my son. And I left and I went home between 9:30 and 10 back to Cloquet. And when I got home, my heart was just racing, almost racing out of my skin. My son had a phone issue where he didn't have a phone. He just had a backup phone that only had internet access. So the next day on Tuesday, we were going to go to the mall and get that phone turned on with phone service. So I messaged him, and it wasn't unusual that he sometimes didn't message me back. I said he could have been sleeping. He could have been playing his game. You know, he liked to play. There's one of the games I just forgot now, the name of the game that he plays all the time. But when I went home, I had lots and lots of signs. When he was in a hospital and he had overdosed the time before when he had gone into the sober home, he didn't make it one day and he overdosed. And I was laying thinking, oh, he's gone through detox. He's in the sober home. Woo! I have not really been sleeping. At that point, it was really hardcore, no sleep for over a year. Really, really like an hour a night or 2 hours a night, or every once in a while I would get 5 or 6 hours. And I'd say, that's okay. I can keep going. I can keep going. I know how to regenerate. I know how to resurrect. I can do this. And I was laying on the floor, sleeping, when I went into vision. And next thing I know, I was looking out of his eyes inside of a hospital. I woke up with a gasp, grabbed my phone, and on the phone, he said, Mom, I need you, Mom, Mom. It was very cryptic writing, and I thought, oh my God, where is he? What happened? Not putting all the pieces together yet because of just waking up. And he said, Mom, I'm in the hospital. Are you okay? Yes, I'm okay, Mom. I feel horrible, but I had a relapse. I said, babe, that's okay. I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're being taken care of. Okay. So as he went out into his own place to rent that he found on Craigslist, he moved out of the sober home September 24th. This is why we need something longer than 1, 2, or 3 months for people that have had a couple of years of substance addiction. As he moved out into a rental, I began to get more and more signs. A Halloween sign blew over to my car, and it was face down right next to my door that had big bold letters RIP for rest in peace, a red devil sign. It had little tiny snowflakes on the top, so it was October the 11th. And the little snowflakes were like little pellets on the top of it. I turned it over. I realized it probably belonged to my neighbor way around the corner, but it had blown over right next to my door. My son called me on October the 11th and he said, Mom, Todd died. Todd Payton. Todd Zilla on Facebook. Todd died. He died of an overdose, Mom. I said, oh my gosh. Todd had been in here for years off and on. Also part of my son's, big group of friends that they had gone to school together and all known each other in a very small community. It was days later that I was driving up to Duluth to go check on him and do a little grocery shopping at Whole Foods. And people in the community had seen me pulling him out of bathrooms, and they'd seen me so tired and talking about how I wasn't sure if I was going to make it through this whole thing. And eventually it goes from being a well-guarded secret that your loved one has addiction, your child, started by a doctor following an orthopedic surgery, a broken clavicle, to my son is a heroin addict. He's addicted to heroin. He's addicted to opioids, and this is what's going on. So people knew, and they're watching out for you, right? People that saw me regularly shopping pre-COVID days when people were still, acting like humans behave as far as I'd known from the time I was born. So other things happen. I have a flawless background. I don't have any accidents or I don't have any driving infractions on my record. And I got pulled over by an unmarked car for going like 60 and a 50 mile an hour on a part of the freeway. And he said, you're going too fast. What are you in a big hurry for? So signs that come to you, literally the Halloween sign right next to the door of my car, face down with the rest in peace. Being pulled over, it's going fast, right? So what was the sign in that? It's coming fast, okay? It's fast. It's a fast moving. It's moving fast. Death is coming fast, okay? Sure, easy to look at these in retrospect. Many, many signs came. I was given a warning and not a ticket when I was going too fast because of my record. I was thankful for that. Well, what are you in such a hurry for? And I said, well, I have a loved one with a health problem. That's all I could think of in terms of how to answer that without it being too much and getting caught up in too much of a tangled web. Sign after sign after sign, including going there to visit that night. Okay. What about after? What about after someone dies? And you walk into the kitchen and you got a brand new light bulb, you've completely cleaned out the appliance. And it only happens every so often. But you talk about your child and you're home by yourself and the light goes way bright, unbelievably bright, like you've never seen it like that. And it goes way down and kind of flashes. You go in the bedroom and the lights do that on an occasion. You go into the kitchen and the refrigerator starts going knock, 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 knock. When you talk about your child, or when you're thinking and pensively thinking about your child. Or what about when the same numerological breadcrumbs present themselves over and over and over? Maybe it's number 7, maybe it's number 11, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 5. But over and over and over to such an extreme that it's irrefutable. Or that it shows up every time right on time as you need it. Okay. These are so uncanny that a big, huge butterfly comes and drifts across and lands on your hand and looks right up at you. Or that you're just about to go sign an agreement that's very weighty on your future. And all of a sudden a phone call comes in. And another phone call comes in before and during, almost as if to stop you right now for a moment, right? And you come across other people and they say, and you start putting a lot of pieces together. The signs are so out there, but it's us. We have so far reduced our intuitive and connected ability in terms of vibration, in terms of premonition, in terms of vision, instead of just laying down and dreaming, to an extent that the majority of my clients, and we're talking a lot of people, when I ask them, are you dreaming? No. Well, I think I am. Well, I must be sometimes, right? I'm dreaming all the time. And I'm especially dreaming during a certain season. Every year, I'm dreaming quite a bit more during a certain season. That season for you might be the season that you were born in. For a lot of people, maybe they were born in December and they love winter months, right? And they have a really lovely dreaming season during the winter months. I don't want to make this too long and too drawn out, but the signs are there. You can hear your loved ones. If we die, if we cease to breathe, and the water and the oxygen stops circulating in the body, it's the body that dies. The internal self, think of it in very similar terms as a coma. You go into a coma and the person, the being, the spirit, the essence of the being is still fully awake and alive inside of now a dead car, a dead vehicle. The vehicle is dead. Whether it was from an acute brunt force trauma, acute brunt force, this is a tongue twister, acute blunt force trauma. So bam, and you're knocked out and it shuts the system off. Or any other way, this is your vehicle and it can cease running, but you inside do not. So I did not rush to call 911, knowing that I was going to be dismissed from the room and my son was just going to be picked up and handled and room checked and dealt with as a crime scene. And I didn't, for a very specific reason. And I'm not asking you to do that, because I knew that when I got there between 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, by my son's, the temperature of his hand, that he likely was gone. The body was shut down sufficient that he may not be able to just come right back into it and revive as we normally could do. I was very, very deeply, deeply saddened, but I kept myself cognizant and aware. I brushed back his forehead with my hand and stayed with him for quite a while, sang to him, cried over him, and let my tears run down his cheeks, told him how much I love him, how much I'm going to miss him, how sad I am that his young life ended so early at 24. Wondering, how could this happen? I looked around me and I saw an extra large box of needles, and I saw the supply he'd had from the needle exchange that he'd always kept with him. So I knew that what I heard was that box of needles was put there by someone to stage it. So of course, with his background, it would look as though just another individual who was a junkie in many minds. Some minds in law enforcement have used that word around me. It would just be chalked up to he just had an overdose and he didn't have a tolerance anymore. But I know in my heart that he didn't inject himself. I know that. I feel that, know that. Everything about me knows that. My son has come amongst me a great many times in visions and shown me that he's on the way back. Okay. if you don't believe that you're recycled into the next new vehicle, it's like taking the computer off of one vehicle and putting it in the next one, right? Now you put it in another new vehicle. You take some of that software, that hardware, right? Pretty soon, one day, that'll kind of be how we operate. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. I really was going to go into a live stream because about the canine hair tissue testing. I got the hair tissue testing back for the 2 large dogs that live with me in the pack, and I thought that would be really interesting. Luna has had a lot of seizures in the past, and what I found on her test is very, very revealing. And Fire's had some cruciate issues, which are not uncommon with larger dogs, and for lots of reasons, with inbreeding included. And he doesn't have quite the energy that Luna has, and you can see exactly from his hair tissue test why. It lays it out for us. So look forward, and I'm going to go ahead and bring those to you. And I had some copies made so I can show them on the screen so you'll be able to see what they look like. Thank you very much for joining me, and I always appreciate your love and support.